and then it just rejects it again and again and again. I'm not sure what happened.
Okay.
Okay, great. We'll get it out. Just your email address or?
Okay, Director Harris,
Present.
Director McLaren, Director Ricky,
Yes.
Director Calandri, Director Urosic,
Here.
and Director McLaren.
Kathy, *6 if you're on your phone.
Phyllis Stannon.
Morning. Yes, I'm here.
Good morning. Kate White. Craig Parton.
Yes, here.
Morning, Craig.
Good morning.
Matt Knudsen.
Here.
And Pete Thompson.
Here.
Kathy McLaren.
Kathy, we can't hear you if you're present. Can you *6 and let us know you're here?
Hi, this is James. I have Barbara Hogan here with me, Kathy's alternate. If you'd like to start with her.
Well, we have Barbara as an alternate if we need to put Barbara in for Kathy.
Okay, James, if Barbara will be alternate till we hear from Kathy, go ahead and.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, Barbara, you're voting. Now we're on the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Yeah, this is Adam. I move that we approve the agenda.
Motion made.
Derek, I'll second it.
Adam, second by Derek. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion by roll call vote.
Director McLaren. Director Hogan.
Here, aye.
Director Ricky.
Yes.
Director Calandri. Yes. Director Urosic.
Yes.
And Director Paris.
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We're on item 4, public comments for non-agenda items. Are there any public comments for non-agenda items? Please unmute everybody for 30 seconds.
Yes, any more?
Yes, please, Mr. Moore.
Yes, I sent a letter into the for Phyllis Stan and the board, asking for a letter returned from you guys, requesting a letter for my water rights and for well driller to have a well driller come on the property at any time and drill a well. I was wondering where we're at with that, and did Phyllis get that letter, and did the board see it? And Craig.
A letter was given to Craig Parton to review, and he will be doing a response back to you, Benny.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other public comments? Any other public comments? Hearing none. We go on.
Hello, yes.
Oh, please.
Yes, hello. Yes,
Please,
this is Vicki Rouch. I am the newly appointed Antelope Valley Resource Conservation District Outreach Coordinator, and I just wanted to say hello and let the Watermaster know that we will be launching a new grass reduction program within the next month or two, and we'll send out details to you and also to the other water districts in the valley. And then also, you know, the district has had a huge void with the passing of Mr. Rich Campbell. And we have created a memorial fund in his honor, and it's for a scholarship. And there is information on our website regarding donations for his scholarship. So I just want to say hello, and I have sent my information to the Watermaster. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Vicki.
Can you guys hear me?
Appreciate it. Yes, Kathy, are you on now?
Yes.
Okay, so Barbara, you will take over as the alternate. Kathy, you will now be voting, and we'll show you present at this time.
Thank you.
Now we're on the consent agenda. Is there a staff report?
Yes, good morning. This is Matt. Thank you, Chair Ferris. So included in your board packet is the monthly payment of bills that I'd like to go over, beginning on page 4 of your packet. So you can see we've broken out the proposed payment of bills under 2 different categories: budgeted, that comes out of our administrative assessments, and those invoices that are reimbursed through either application fees or legal fees that come back to the Watermaster. So total amount on page 4 is $23,724.03. Also, I'd like to point out that we invoiced SCI Funeral Services for $11,354 associated with some legal expenses reimbursement. There was also distributed a supplemental bill for Todd Groundwater, and that was emailed out separately by Patty Rose. And the total amount on that was $19,917.48. Included in that is payment for their review of the Upper Amagosa Recharge Project. And that was $7,143.25. That comes out of the deposit that was made by those applicants of $7,000. So there will be a final invoice sent to the project applicants for reimbursement of the additional expense. Our checking account balance at the end of January was just over $106,000. And our money market account, which is the replacement water assessments collected, has a balance at the end of January of $200,446. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Matt? Hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, D, and E?
Move to approve.
John, seconded by Kathy. Is that right, Kathy?
Yes.
Okay. Motion by John, second by Kathy. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion by roll call vote.
Director McLaren,
Yes.
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Calandri, Director Urasic,
Yes.
and Director Paris.
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We're now on item 7, advisory committee report. James?
Hi, this is James. I believe the advisory committee report speaks for itself. If there are any questions or concerns, I would be more than happy to answer them.
And that's on page 26 for those with the packet. Are there any questions for the advisory committee? Hearing no questions. Thank you, James. We'll move on to action items. Item 8. A, well application, small pumper qualifying documentation and replacement well application. And who's going to do that report?
That is going to be Angel.
Angel? I'm sorry.
Good morning. This month we have one application for small pumper qualifying. This property is located in the southeast sub area for domestic use. The Watermaster staff has reviewed the small pumper qualifying documentation for domestic use at a single family home and a guest house located on the same parcel and recommends approval. This application starts on page 32 of your agenda packet, and I would be glad to answer any questions if you have.
What is the amount of water they're asking for?
Adam, they're not asking for water, they're just qualifying as a small pumper.
I see.
Any further questions?
Can I, this is Craig Barton. I just want to mention something for the board to consider. It was brought to my attention since the last board meeting with respect to this qualification as a small, not in opposition to it, but that we might consider continuing it for a month to supplement the resolution that adopts it in order to make the appropriate findings that this person is small pumper class qualified. It's in the packet. They've declared under penalty of perjury the various facts necessary to establish their small pumper class qualification, but it was suggested that it might be helpful for future purposes to make some basic findings of fact in the resolution that's adopted by the board. So the request was that we continue it a month, supplement that resolution, and then have it for adoption at the next board meeting. My understanding is this pumper is small pumper qualified, is pumping less than 3 acre-feet, and that there would be no deleterious effect on them if the board continued it for a month.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Board members, what's your consensus? Everyone okay to continue this application for 1 month so that they can work on the resolution?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Derek, you good?
Yes, I am.
Okay, then that brings us to item 2, Tarzan Treatment Center Replacement Well.
And this one's going to be Kate's. Kate actually approved the Tarzan treatment.
Kate?
Good morning. Can everyone hear me okay? This is Kate White from Todd Groundwater.
Yes, Kate.
Great. The Tarzana Treatment Center is a small pumper by succession, and they've submitted applications for replacement well and for new production. And the replacement well and resolutions for approval of those two applications are separated on 2 different resolutions. I will talk about the whole application now for the new production and the replacement well, and we can approve the new production with the next resolution. That application starts on page 42 of the packet. And they are a small pumper by succession, and they're in the western portion of the central Antelope Valley subarea. And they provide housing and support for persons who have completed alcohol and drug treatment and are currently supplying water to 6 residents at the facility. And their water use is reportedly less than 1 acre-feet per year. They would like to expand their facility to a 60-bed treatment and recovery facility, and they're requesting a total of 14.35 acre-feet per year, and 11.35 acre-feet per year of this would be new production, and 3 acre-feet would be what they're allowed under the small pumper class number. And they have an existing well, and it provides adequate water for the current proposed use, but it doesn't meet the LA County Health Department well standards. And so they need to replace this well with one that meets some county standards, and they'll properly abandon the current well when the new well's been drilled. They're going to pay replacement water assessments for any water produced above their small pumper allotment of 3 acre-feet per year. And the location of the parcel with respect to spring 2020 groundwater conservation is shown in figure 1 in the text on page 44. And the well is at the edge of a large cone depression centered about 10 miles to the southeast. And water level hydrographs that are close to the Tarzana parcel are shown in figure 2, which is on page 45. And a hydrograph from US well 3801, that's on the left of figure 2. And that well is about a mile northwest of the Tarzana parcel. And that indicates that water levels have remained steady since about 2008. And there's another hydrograph from well 44001. That's at the left bottom of figure 2. And that indicates a long-term decline in water levels since at least 2007. And that groundwater elevations have been more cyclic since 2016, with lower levels in the summer and higher levels at the end of the winter. And that well's like 3.5 miles to the southeast. There's no material injury associated with groundwater storage and sustainable yield because Tarzan will be required to pay replacement water assessment for all new production. And the new production is not within historical or current areas of inelastic land subsidence. There's no expected impact to local water level quality or recharge. And this new production is not expected to add any significant local water level declines. Therefore, impacts are considered negligible and no material injury is expected. So we recommend approval of the replacement well and the new production for the Tarzan treatment centers. Now, the advisory committee had a question about allowing small pumpers to also get new production. And I don't know, Craig, if you want to chime in now regarding their concerns about this.
Yes.
Okay.
The concerns were raised by some members of the advisory committee in your packet at page 27. And I'm sure if they're on the phone, they can articulate this also. But one of the concerns is, does the judgment allow this kind of thing to happen where a person qualifies as a small pumper, pumps 3 acre-feet without paying replacement water assessment, and then puts in a new production application far exceeding what is appropriate for a small pumper class? Does that essentially drop the person out of the small pumper class and require them to pay replacement water assessment on the entire amount? As I sit here today, I haven't looked at the judgment to determine whether that's a violation of the judgment and whether they've dropped out of the small pumper class. I can certainly look at it before next month, but it appears they followed the procedure. They're a small pumper class qualified. They're expanding their project. They're applying for new production. They've passed the material injury analysis. They're paying replacement water assessment, so there's arguably no damage to the basin. So, but it raises the kind of existential question of whether this violates the spirit of the judgment, where a small pumper class person can get 3 acre-feet with no replacement water assessment being required, and then scope a project that's much bigger than that and take advantage of the small pumper class exclusion for the first 3 acre-feet. I wasn't aware that the judgment prohibits this, but it may be a subject that we want to address and look at whether there should be some amendment in the future to the rules and regs on this kind of situation.
This is Adam, Craig.
Yeah.
That's how I understand the judgment, that small pumpers can pump up to 25 acre-feet and then pay the assessment charge because they exceed the 3 acre-feet free allotment. What I would like to know in your research is what is the definition in the judgment of what constitute a small pumper. To my recollections, these were small homes or homes that have a well within their property, some of which may have some fruit trees, and they would need a little bit more water than the 3 acre-feet. Some don't. I don't know if a treatment facility of this nature, but I understand that I don't know if it's for profit or it's public or whatever the case may be, but regardless, I don't know if that fits that definition that I think, or the intent of the definition of a small pumper class.
That's an issue I'd want to look at, Adam, and would do so. And look at section 5.1.3.5 of the judgment, which is mentioned in the advisory committee comments as to whether this is an additional household constructed on a small pumper class parcel after class closure date, and it's not entitled to a production right. I'd look at that issue also.
Yeah, and that would be my concern.
Yeah. And
in light of that concern and the comments from the advisory committee, I, as one board member, wouldn't have a problem if we can wait a month to take action on this issue.
So I'm okay if we wait a month.
This is Rob. I have a question for staff. Is there, are they waiting to start construction for this? Do we know what the circumstances are?
Yes, Tarzan Treatment Center is in the process of permitting with the county with their building permits, and they actually need water
Right.
to move forward.
So will this action slow them?
Yes.
Up?
Yes, it will.
Okay. So here's my concern. If we can find a compromise around this, Tarzan Treatment Center is an important agency in this community, and they provide a service that's really necessary. And to bring in another 60 rehab beds into this community is critical. People in this community that need a bed right now, for the most part, have to travel down to San Fernando Valley, and that's where they get their services. So I would be opposed to slowing down the process, but because I think it's just a critical need for this valley, but open to any suggestions Craig has about how we can.
This is Adam. This is Adam, Rob. I seem to hear that they have a well and they only pump 1 acre foot, and they can pump up to 3 acre feet or even more over this month. I don't think they're going to pump that water. What I mean is, if there is a need for them to pump more water for construction for the month that we're waiting for clarity, I don't think that would be, it doesn't seem to me, given the circumstances of them owning a well and only using 1 acre foot for their existing residents and having the right to pump up to 3 acre feet. I don't think that will be an issue.
Adam, I don't think that's the problem, but I'll let it need to address it.
Adam, their current well does not meet LA County Health Department's well standards, and they need to start the replacement well process.
But how are they pumping now?
How are they what?
How are they pumping right now?
They're pumping now for what the well can do, but for them to expand their project, their well will not meet standards. They have to re-drill their well to meet those standards, so they're asking for the replacement well.
So this well only pump 1 acre?
Committee until they have the replacement well.
So this well pump only 1 acre foot?
Adam,
It has only been pumping 1 acre foot.
Yeah. Adam, they need our approval to go forward to the county to get the permits they need to build and to put in the replacement well. And I do not want to hold them up at all, but certainly open to suggestions by Craig how we can tentatively improve this and look at the issues that we need to look at so that we can let them go forward with their project.
I don't think the small pumper qualifying has anything that addresses whether the water is residential water, agricultural water, or commercial water. I think it mostly looks at the well itself and how much water the well pumps.
Craig, what's your suggestion?
Well, you could approve it conditioned on certain things happening in the next 30 days. a finding that this is permitted under the judgment and that their small pumper class designation is appropriate.
But that probably won't help them going forward to the county if we put limitations on it, so.
But it would allow them to get the well permit.
Well, that's what I'm asking, if we can, whatever we can do to let them get the well permit and then revisit this to see if we have any issues.
Well, wouldn't what Craig proposed would allow them to move forward with their well permit?
I think the only question here is whether they get the 3 acre feet or they don't.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the only thing holding this application up. Other than that, Kate's done material injury on all new production. So at the end of the day, it's they get the 3 acre feet of production right being a small pumper, or do they not?
So
Okay, and that's fine. If we can approve it with that condition, that to me is closely analogous to what Craig is proposing.
And I'm fine with that.
So Craig, can you give us an idea how we frame this motion? Would we go ahead and approve resolution R2107 as amended to keep open the question of whether they're entitled to the 3 acre feet for the small pumper?
Right, for the small pumper class designation.
And you can assist staff with amending the resolution to take care of that?
Yes.
Okay, so if I would entertain that we have a motion to approve resolution R2107 allowing Tarzan Treatment Center to go forward with the replacement well and with the provision that there may be the possibility they will not be entitled to the 3 acre feet for the small pumpers. That will be determined in a further meeting. So is there a motion to approve as?
Move to approve.
Motion by Kathy.
I move.
Is there a second to the motion?
Seconded by Adam.
Motion made and seconded. We just lost John, so let me get him back on the phone.
Do we want to make we need to have 2 separate votes. One to also take away or to table the small pumper documentation application. We'll probably actually need 2 votes on this because there's 2 different things on this resolution. And if you're tabling the small pumper document, then we need to maybe vote to table that to the next meeting and then do another vote for the Tarzan Treatment Center.
I'll move to do those 2 separate
Wait,
things.
Kathy. Wait.
Sorry.
We can do it as one vote, just have a motion be to table the small pumper qualifying documentation and then to approve the Tarzan treatment with the entitlement question of the 3 acre feet.
Okay, so the motion's going to be that we approve resolution number R2107, tabling item 1, the small pumper, it's Joe Schneider, and approving the Tarzan Treatment Center replacement well with the provision that the issue whether they get 3 acre feet as a small pumper is not approved at this time. It's going to be revisited next month. So
moved.
Motion made by Kathy, second by
Adam.
Great. Okay, so there's our motion, and Craig will work with staff to rewrite the resolution to
reflect that.
Read as this motion is stating, Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion by roll call vote?
Director McLaren?
Yes.
Director Ariki?
Yes.
Director Calandri?
Yes.
Director Narosic?
Yes.
And Director Paris?
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We're now on item B, well application, new production applications, and new point of extraction applications. And that's going to be either Phyllis or Kate.
Kate, and can everyone hear me again okay?
Yeah, we hear you fine, Kate.
Good. So there are 4 total new production applications for approval today. We already talked about the Tarzan one. And the next one starts on page 69 of the packet. And the applicant, Mr. Danielov, is requesting 1.5 acre feet per year for a single family home and some landscaping. And he's in the West Antelope subarea. And that given this small amount of production and the obligation to pay replacement water assessment, we find the potential for material injury as defined in the judgment to be negligible and recommend approval of this application. Are there any questions for this first one?
So this falls under the non-pumper class,
Yes, Willis class.
Wells class. And Craig, is there, to my recollection, there is no limit on the Wallace class, correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
All right, I will move on to the next one if there's no other questions. So the next application starts on page 80 of the packet. And the applicant is requesting 1.5 acre feet per year for a single family home and irrigation of about 20 fruit trees. And he's in the central Antelope Valley subarea. And the information provided indicates that the new production will be used in a manner consistent with California best water management practices. And given the small amount of proposed production and the obligation to pay the replacement water assessment, we find the potential for material injury as defined in the judgment to be negligible, and we recommend approval of this application as well.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions on this one?
No, I'm assuming both of these applications, they have existing wells?
No.
They will drill new wells?
They'll drill new wells, and there's never been a well on their parcel or water use on their parcel. So they're Willis class and are requesting new production and will pay replacement water assessments
Okay.
for all their water use.
Remind me if our form now dictate that once they obtain the permit for the new well and the well is drilled, to submit back to the watermaster the completion report?
Yes, we're asking for
permit
including
from- Okay, and we follow up on that and make sure that we get it, right?
that. Yes,
Okay. Well, I think it's important
I
to
do
protect the
too.
groundwater quality and ensure the wells is drilled in accordance with the permit.
I do too, and have a record of where all the wells are.
Okay, please. Thank you.
Okay. And the next application starts on page 92 of the packet. And that's a request for 1 acre feet per year of new production. And it's for a single family home and some outside irrigation. And the proposed well will have a capacity of about 5 gallons per minute. And the information provided indicates that the new production will be used in a manner consistent with California best water management practices. And given the small amount of proposed production and the obligation to pay a replacement water assessment, groundwater finds potential for material injury as defined in the judgment to be negligible, and recommend approval of this application as well.
Okay.
And any questions on this one?
No existing wells, I take it.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's all the new production applications that we have. And so there's 4 of them, and the resolution is Resolution R21-08, and that's on page 66 of the packet.
Kate, just to educate me, can you explain briefly what California, irrigation according to California irrigation water standards or whatever the term you use?
So we've developed an application for applicants to fill out, and it indicates such things as the size, what you're going to use the water for, and then there's a checklist of like water conservation practices you're going to be using, such as you're going to do Energy Star water conservation appliances.
I see.
Water efficient shower heads.
I see.
Low flow toilets, and there's kind of a checklist you go through.
Got it. No, I recall now. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? Is there a motion to approve resolution number R2108, approving the new production and new point of extraction application?
I move that we approve resolution R2108.
Motion made by Adam. Is there a second? Motion seconded by John. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve resolution number R2108 by roll call vote?
Director McLaren?
Yes.
Director Ariki?
Yes.
Director Calandri? Yes. Director Narasik?
Yes.
And Director Karras?
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We're now on the administrator's report. Administrators?
Yes. Good morning, this is Matt. At the request of the board at the last Watermaster meeting, we sent a letter from the Watermaster to the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors Association requesting a long-term financial commitment for the USGS program. Included in your packet on page 140 is a copy of that letter. So that topic has been discussed recently with the association as well as the member agency. So we plan on getting back to the Watermaster on what their long-term financial plan for this program will be going forward. Also, just a quick update on the 2021 the fixed administrative assessments has been mailed out as of the first of the year. Those payments and assessments are due by March 1st. The total amount that was invoiced was about $358,000. Of that amount, we've currently received a little over 50%. So just a reminder to all the parties that may be on the line, those payments are due, and we'll probably start public shaming people next month. So that's all I have to report, unless anybody has anything.
Matt, this is Adam. I know you told us at the Watermaster Committee meeting that you also reached out to the AV, Integrated Regional Water Management Plan group team for the same commitment on the USGS groundwater level monitoring program.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you, Adam. You guys actually asked me to update on that, and I forgot. So in addition to requesting a financial commitment from the association, we have reached out to the Antelope Valley Integrated Regional Water Management Group, which is made up of 11 or 12 local agencies. As you know, they currently, for the past 3 years, they have contributed 25% of the USGS program. So we've reached out to them, as Adam said, requesting next 3 to 5 year financial commitment for the program. So we are working with that group on an amended MOU to document that financial commitment, and we'll report back as progress is made. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Any other questions for Matt? Hearing none, we'll move on to number 10, Watermaster Engineers Report. Phyllis and Keith.
Yes, good morning, everyone. This is Phyllis Stanton. So the new production summary that we have to date is shown on your packet, page 142. This is something that the board has requested in the past that would like to keep up with, and that is the amount of new production that's been approved to date. You know, we do this pretty much one application at a time. We do the analysis of the material injury for each application separately as we receive them, but we do want to keep up with this cumulative effect that the board has asked us about in the past. At this point, I don't think there's anything to be concerned about, but it is something that we want to, number one, watch, and number two, we would recommend that we begin to think about some sort of methodology to actually do a better job of analyzing cumulative production. So to begin the discussion, let's just quickly look at page 142, and you can see to the table to date that we've approved approximately 541 acre feet a year more of production. So just as a quick reminder, somewhere around 550 acre feet a year is still less than 1% of the native safe yield of the basin. So we still are at very low percentages of new production in the sub-basin. Nonetheless, and I will just also point out that to date, the new production applications have been distributed widely across several of the large sub-areas of the basin, and therefore we aren't seeing sort of concentrated pumping. Having said that, most of the pumping to date is shown there in the western sub-area, but that's a little misleading because of the one large application that we had in that area for 215 acre feet a year. And so if we take that out, you can see that most of the new production has been in the western sub-area along with the central sub-area. So, but again, that production has been distributed sufficiently across those areas that I think that even if you said that you were going to put the 540 acre feet at any one point, you still would be at a situation where you would not be creating excessive drawdown on material injury. Nonetheless, I think that going forward, you can't just keep doing this as a one well equation. At this point, when we get new applications, we look at the aquifer parameters surrounding that application, and we look at the production that's associated with the application and make determinations as to the potential for localized material injury. Again, to date, that hasn't been any kind of a problem. Going forward, however, if we continue to see new production applications coming in that are significant amounts of water, and I mean, above 1% here of the native safe yield, again, we haven't reached that yet. But I do think that we need to think about how we could affect that analysis. And I know we've talked about a groundwater model in the past. It could be that we could do something less extensive than that, but that would just simply be my recommendation, that we continue to look for and consider what would be needed if the new production applications continue to rise. And that's really all I had. Be glad to answer any questions.
This is Adam, fellas.
Hi. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm having a hard time understanding this table. So in the left side, you have the year acre feet, and then minus, I don't know what BNUK is. That bank?
It is. Let me explain that, Adam. I'm sorry to have been a little obtuse about this table. So we had most of our applications to date have actually been for new production for a new home and domestic use, something on the order of 2 acre feet a year, just as you saw the 2 applications that Kate described today. Right. But there was one relatively large application for 215 acre feet a year, and that applicant's name was Mr. Bannock. So that's what that stands for. And Mr. Vanek had asked for an industrial use for supporting construction at a solar facility. And so that sort of overwhelmed the numbers on the table. And so we just wanted to point out that even though you saw, everyone was saying, well, 2018, only 25 acre feet, 2019, 27 acre feet. Wow, 2020, boy, these new production applications, they're really increasing. And the answer is not exactly. One of them was just sufficiently high. So does that make sense?
Yeah. What about the right side of that table? What is that?
So that is that was our assessment of trying to understand: do we have these applications concentrated in one sub-area of the sub-basin, or are they distributed across the sub-basin? So,
okay.
Yeah, and it's a little unfortunate. I think we're trying to save space there. When it says central, that has nothing to do with 2018. Does that make sense?
I see. That's a cumulative.
Yes, and so that side of the table just simply talks about sub-areas.
Okay, and those include both small pumpers and non-pumper class?
No, they only include new production for the Willis class. I'm sorry. It does have. I misspoke. For the most part, that's true. But yes, there were some new production applications for some small pumpers.
Okay. One observation about this table: it sounds as we approach the end of the ramp down period, these numbers will continue to go up.
Possibly.
Right.
I don't have a way of predicting it.
Right. It just, observing 2020 and 2021, 2021, we're only in the second month of the year, and we're already up 175.5 acre feet. When you compare it to 2018 and 2019, which was 20 acre feet, or 25 or so.
Right.
So if you project 2021, we could end up much, much higher by the end of the year.
It's possible, yes.
Yeah.
Adam, and just a question for Phyllis. This would be replacement water, right, Phyllis? So they...
Absolutely. So we are not adding to any kind of overdraft condition. And so there would be obviously no material injury associated with reduction of groundwater and storage. However, our material injury analysis also looks at localized impacts to water levels. That's why the distribution was important to look at for us. Does that make sense, Rob?
Yes, it does. And okay. I just want to make sure that the public knows that when we're talking about this water, this isn't really coming out of the base. It comes out of the basin, but then it's replaced because they're paying for replacement water. So the Antelope Valley State water contractors would bring that water back into the basin.
Yes, absolutely. That's correct.
But it does include the small pumper class, though.
No, it doesn't.
A
while ago, I thought you said it includes everybody.
So what it includes, Adam, is when a small pumper actually puts in an application for new production, similar to what we talked about earlier.
Correct, but in cases like that, they're entitled under the judgment for free water up to 3 acre feet. So my point is, not every acre foot here is going to be replaced. You're right. The Wells class, they would pay replacement water assessment. But if there's small pumper class and it's less than 3 acre feet, they just add it to the small pumper class and they will not pay the replacement assessment fees, correct?
That's the way we have been doing it to date, yes. But that's a relatively a very small number of the numbers that you're looking at here.
Understood. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we understand that, because we're going to carry this table, as you said, going forward, which I think it's an excellent idea. But maybe at one point we do need to separate those two.
Good morning. This is This is Kate. I just want to clarify this a little bit.
Please.
Bannock, Mr. Bannock is the only small pumper that's been approved new production to date. And he actually has two different wells. He has a small pumper well and he has this commercial well. So all the water on this table represents replacement water assessments. It doesn't include any small pumper water use.
Okay, thank you, Kate.
It's all
that
3
acre
production. Yeah.
That 3 acre feet is not in here. Okay, great.
Yeah. Would it be troublesome if we have another table for the small pumper class? Because I've heard that concern from small pumpers. Because there is a limit in the judgment on how much small pumpers can pump, which is the 3,800 acre feet. So could we create a similar table for the approved small pumper class?
Adam, we're still trying to identify small pumpers. And like the application that we have here on the agenda this time that you guys are tabling, that's a small pump that we're trying to identify. We can
I'm talking about the one we've approved.
We can tell you how many small pumper assessments we collected if you'd like on the next, maybe at the next meeting.
Well, I think Adam's point is as we approve small pumpers, you'd just like us to keep track of how many of those we're approving.
And we do have that.
And we have that.
Yeah,
So
thank you. Thank you.
I can provide you that report probably the next meeting.
Yeah, just to include a table like that in the record. That's all.
I would be interested in for staff to look at, have we collected or how much have we collected?
Yes.
Got it.
We will do bill out.
Most of the new production applications are small house residential.
Right.
Changes, and most of them have not drilled their wells at this time.
Okay.
So we're still waiting on production.
For that, yeah. Okay, great. Okay, good discussion. Any other discussion, board? Okay.
I'm good.
Kathy? You're good? Okay.
I just think I'm good.
Excellent. Phyllis, Kate, anything else?
That's it for me.
I don't have anything else. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Now we're on to item 11, General Counsel's report. Craig?
Yes, a few things to update you on. One, this will be the last time the SCI matter will be on the calendar. It's been a couple of years since they moved to intervene and then establish on an evidentiary basis their entitlement to a production right as a non-stipulating party. The board has been kept up to date on this. There was a lot of discussions, a very active landowner purveyor group that negotiated with SCI, Joshua Memorial Park, and got to a place where the parties were in agreement about the facts and the ultimate production right that was agreed upon. You may recall SCI at one point was requesting, I believe it was 122 acre feet a year. And after the discussions and back and forth between the landowner and purveyor negotiating group and SCI agreed to, and the court entered on February 5th, an order granting them 38 acre feet a year and a pre-ramp down amount of 101.5. They being SCI, agreed to pay all administrative assessments and applicable replacement water assessment. Probably won't be a lot of replacement water assessment to pay the first few years because of the amnesty, 2-year amnesty provision of Section 8.3 of the judgment, and the fact that SCI's well went on the inactive list or became inoperative in 2018. In 2019, they had no production. So there's only a couple years left on the ramp down amount, and SCI is being very cooperative, and it's a good final result that the court entered after holding a hearing on February 5th and entered the order awarding them a production right of 38 acre-feet a year. So it's a good result all around for the basin. The engineer puts that amount and tracks that amount of the non-stipulating party and an exhibit to the annual report, and we'll be following that appropriately. So the SCI matter and Joshua Memorial Tree is looks like it's finally concluded. Number 2 is an update on the Phelan appeal. Just to be clear what Phelan appeal we're talking about, Phelan appealed an order after a hearing with Judge Komar back in 2018, and Judge Komar ruled that Phelan was not entitled to the benefits of the 2-year free or no payment of replacement water assessment during those 2 years, that Phelan was not a producer, and it did not have a right to the provisions and protections of Section 8.3. The only reason I bring it up is Phelan requested that the Court of Appeals set a briefing schedule on that appeal. It's not been set yet. There's nothing more to report. But I wanted the board to be aware that that appeal and that briefing process will start at some point presumably in the near future, but it's hard to know at the Court of Appeal what the workload is when they'll set a briefing schedule. And then third, the rules and regulations. Last month you approved an amendment to the rules and regulations, section 19, on the recovery of legal fees for extraordinary services. That matter is set for hearing in March before Judge Komar, and we assume it will be unopposed and be granted. The only other matter, I bring it just for attention because it's been discussed a number of times by the board about this issue of people, for lack of a better word, gaming the new production system. Going in with a low number, getting approval, theoretically at least, and then exceeding the new production amount and simply paying replacement water assessment as a cost of doing business. Of course, we have the injunctive power if anyone violates and harms the basin. We have legal power to halt that. But I'm wondering if the board wants to provide any direction that council look into the issue of whether we can amend the rules and regulations to address a process by which we review new production applications and some criteria about and some options about how to deal with parties that blow the top off of their production right regularly and pay the replacement water assessment as simply a cost of doing business. We've discussed it a number of different times in open session, but we've never directed us as legal counsel to do any further research on it, and just bring it to the board's attention whether they want that discussion and that legal analysis to be done as to what options the board has, whether it would involve amending the rules and regulations, and things related to new production amounts that are being exceeded regularly. So that I leave that for the board, whether they want to have us pursue that. I only raise it as mentioned because it seems to be a regular topic of conversation at the board level. And that is my report, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Craig. Board, any questions for me?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, Craig. So I take it the cemetery is going to pay for the assessment charges back to 2016?
Yeah, I believe that they have done that. You're going to have staff would know whether they are up to date on administrative assessments.
Okay. And then
we invoice them for those assessments.
Okay. Thank you. And so Phelan Hills, they appealed and they lost at the appellate court, and now they are appealing again, or am I missing something?
This was a post-judgment order. This was after judgment had been entered. We assessed them a replacement water assessment for 2016-2017, believed that they did not have the benefit of the amnesty provisions of paragraph 8.3 of the judgment. Phelan rejected that. The upshot of it is Phelan's required to pay RWAs for the water it pumped during the first 2 years of the ramp down period. And they appealed that order of Judge Komar.
Okay. And on the last issue that you brought up, I think we need to stick to the judgment. Gaming the system, as I have repeatedly brought that up, and some of the board members also have supported that, needs to be avoided so that we don't create a problem down the road. So I'd be interested in your opinion on one of the attorneys, Keith Lemieux, and Warren Wallen as well, have said that I actually requested clarity on the judgment, and they have proposed that they would do a flow chart. I would like for you to get involved in reviewing that flow chart, which basically will delineate how the judgment is structured and what is the limits on the amount of water that non-pumper class can get, the small pumper class can get, to what level they can go and pay replacement fees, and da-da-da-da. Once that's done, it will definitely give me comfort level, at least when I make a decision, that it's consistent with the judgment. That said, I think the board and the staff need to also make sure that the amount that is being requested is commensurate with the intended use. In other words, if somebody is building a home and they have a few orchards and they're asking for 20 acre feet of water, that obviously is not for what they're applying for. And I think at that point we need to, as a board, to have some sort of a policy on how we deal with that. I've said repeatedly, I don't have any problem with somebody coming back to the board and saying I've expanded my use now, and instead of needing 3 acre feet, now I'm going to need 10 acre feet, and this is why. Because again, we don't want people to game the system and circumvent the process and start creating a secondary market for water in the AV. Notwithstanding the fact that they will pay replacement water fee, but that's not the business we're in. The business we're in is protecting the groundwater basin. The assessment fee is only a mechanism for those that have water rights entitlement and they overpump due to accentuating circumstances, not really to create issues that were not intended in the first place. So those are my thoughts on that last item.
So, Adam, this is Rob. If Warren and Keith are already working on this, can we save attorney fees by having them complete it? Because the county's a lot richer than we are. And then submit it to Craig for review?
Yeah, that's what I suggested, because our counsel is Craig. I mean, I understand, Warren is Water Work District 40 counsel, and Keith has his own clients, and they were gracious enough to offer to do this flow chart because, it's even though I've read the judgment many times, it's just hard to keep things straight in my head.
No, that's great. Craig, is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, we'll do. We'll look forward to seeing the flow chart when it's done and comment on it.
Great. Thanks. Any other discussion? Any other questions for Craig?
Yeah, this is
Derek. Just Craig, question, and may not be somewhat appropriate, but back to feeling, and maybe to you as well as the staff. We still have $1.2 million out in receivables to them, and wanted to get a status update on that first, and then I can follow up with my second question.
Yeah, we have not pursued enforcement with respect to Phelan while the appeals were pending and hadn't been finalized. We need to revisit that and give you a report. And there's a couple of other extreme numbers in the accounts receivable that deserve an update to the board, and I'll do that next month.
Great. Yeah, I'd say the Tapia and
yes.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yes.
That would be great. And then it was brought up by some of the landowners that had asked this question in regards to Phelan and just, and maybe with Tapia and the others, such time and effort from council been put into that. Can you remind us of how and if we've been able to pass on or charge them for any of the legal fees that have been burdened upon the Watermaster?
Phelan, we have not, we've tracked those, but we have not recovered them yet. And I emphasize yet.
Do you have an opinion on that yet that you like the board to hear?
I'm not prepared to do that in open session yet.
Okay. I appreciate that and look forward to hearing it when the time is, whether in open or closed.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, board, any other questions for Craig? Craig, thank you for your report. We're now on for agenda items for board members and future agenda items. For agenda items, Adam, did I hear you?
No, I was just thinking, I always think of things later on, but I'm sure we have plenty anyway. Plenty on our plate.
We'll be fine, and you can write them down for next time.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, we will adjourn in about 5 seconds if there's nothing else anybody else wants to talk about. Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thanks.
On March 24th, 2021 at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye-bye.